The OTA conversation continues from what we saw in the first practice. Where's the competition at cornerback? We get into that, and also who was there and who was not, and kind of what it means.
Yeah, I'm excited to get back out there and get some more observations, but having this stuff to break down makes these shows a little bit more fun for us. We are presented by PJ's Coffee and coming to you from the Better Call BADEAUX podcast studio. If you need to get your day started, stop by PJ's. They got locations all over the city. Great coffee. Make sure you stop by. And if you need legal help with any of the following: car wrecks, offshore injuries, 18-wheeler collisions, Maritime Jones Act, you better call BADEAUX, 504-323-7777 or 985-303-7777 for your free consultation and case review. And check out Hardhide Ponchatoula Strawberry Whiskey. That is an 86 proof blend of aged wheat bourbon, American light whiskey, and fresh Ponchatoula strawberries. It is not for the thin-skinned. It's blended in New Orleans. Look for it in your favorite stores, bars, and restaurants. And check out Ideal Market this Memorial Day weekend. They have everything you need to have a great grilling event. They have the freshest and most delicious meats to throw on your grill. And of course, they have charcoal, a huge selection of domestic and imported beers, and everything to make your Memorial Day weekend memorable. And go check out Firehouse Subs, Veteran Boulevard location. They're great people. They do all kinds of great stuff in the community. So stop by as you're out and about this weekend. All right, let's get into the show.
I wish the cameras were just rolling for the conversation we just had about the Rocky movies. We're eventually going to do a show about that. You might have noticed a few Philly things in here. We'll touch on that later. Right now, we're getting into the rest of the OTA conversation. Let's go ahead and start off with attendance. That's something we did not hit earlier this week. The guys who are missing: Alvin Kamara, Taysom Hill, Andres Pete, Michael Thomas, Marshawn Lattimore. And just from that list so far, a lot of veteran guys. We keep going. JT Gray wasn't there. Demario Davis wasn't there. Ryan Ramczyk, James Hurst, and Nick Saldiveri. That's where I want to start, the offensive line. Nick Saldiveri was a guy we all expected to get some notes on first off, and it was kind of surprising to hear that he's got a little bit of a tweak right now.
Knocked out of action like Apollo knocked out Rocky in the third fight.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
I'm not disputing that Apollo was the better fighter here.
He won the third fight.
Just saying that third fight wasn't a sanctioned event.
Ding, ding. I mean, what more do you need?
I'd like some video. I'd like to see some video of that fight.
Never be released.
The only video is artwork that's slowly. Saldiveri, I mean, he was participating in rookie camp. Yeah. So at some point between the Saturday we saw him at rookie camp, he has a calf injury. I don't know if it's going to keep him out for all of, Dennis Allen started answering a couple injury questions. He goes, all right, I'm going to stop this here. I'm not going through every injury all off season. But so we'll see if we see him for OTAs and minicamp. Obviously, the most important thing is that he's back for training camp, but hopefully it's not anything real significant for him.
Is it safe to say with the offensive linemen, the fact that James Hurst and Ryan Ramczyk weren't there is not anything to be concerned about?
Well, both of them missed last year at this time. And look, overall, the numbers were better than last year. There were 18 guys missing from the first OTA, and there's a handful of these guys that missed last year that also missed this year. So just a few guys that just don't like to practice at OTAs, I guess. Taysom Hill wasn't there last year. Alvin Kamara, Marshawn Lattimore, Mike Thomas, James Hurst, Andres Pete. So I don't think it's anything super alarming with any of them. They just seem to work out on their own away from the team, and they come back. In the case of a guy like Alvin, you can watch his workouts on Instagram, basically. So he's doing what he needs to do, and he's working out harder than most guys do. So I'm not worried about him.
And we know Demario specifically is working out at Saints camp. We see pictures of it all the time, and then he's just choosing, it's the right of veteran players not to do this. And I think it's common. I think it's almost more noteworthy that we talked to Cam Jordan. I was talking to him at the golf tournament about this is something he likes to do. He doesn't miss OTAs, even though he would have every right to as a 13th year veteran. And I think it's notable that Tyrann Mathieu and Marcus May are out there, and Bradley Roby, veteran DBs. I think that's going to help a secondary hit the ground running this year. But I don't think it's a negative when the veterans are there. I was trying to remember because it all kind of blends together. I feel like there used to be more attendance at OTAs. And then I feel like with COVID, they gave him the whole offseason off. Then the next year, it was supervised. And I just feel like it's never got but I don't know if that's a league-wide trend or if that's a Saints trend. But I feel like OTA attendance is something that's kind of diminished among veteran players. But it's certainly not a red flag or a warning signal.
Yeah, Mike, and I think a lot of that stuff probably has to do with load management. Two of the guys we did see out there, they didn't have pads on, but they kind of were very much involved. And speaking with coaches, I even saw two of them kind of going through hand movements and things like that. Cesar Ruiz and Trevor Penning, they obviously had very similar injuries. They're still working back. We got to talk to at least Cesar Ruiz in the locker room, and he seems at least in good spirits and is ready to be out there. What did you take away from the conversations with Cesar?
Yeah, he seemed to be doing well in the right place in his rehab, and he was doing more out there than I saw Trevor Penning doing. I saw Trevor Penning just basically observing, kind of like back in the cut the whole time. I saw Ruiz go through at least a couple drills where when they were just doing individual stuff, he was participating. I also talked to Doug Marrone about those guys, and it was kind of interesting. Like, Doug never lies. I don't think Doug has the capacity to lie. You start talking to him, and he just tells the whole truth. And he admitted that Trevor Penning not playing last year is a setback. It is something they're going to try to have to overcome. Usually when you talk to a coach, it's well, he's getting mental reps and he's picking this stuff. Like, Doug's like, no, he wasn't playing. Like, I'm telling him stuff. He isn't out there able to fix it. So we're kind of starting over. So I think the curve is pretty long for him. But the fact that they're on the field after these Liz Frank injuries, at least standing around, moving around, I think that is a pretty good step in the right direction. And I think it's a positive sign that maybe there's a shot they're ready come camp.
Switching over to the defensive side of things, this is something that you pointed out. DeMarco Jackson and Zach Bond were getting first team reps. That goes into our ideal outcome. Who is the ideal backup linebacker now?
It can be either one of them, but it has to be one of them that steps up into a big role. We've talked about how thin linebacker is, and it's jarring to see it when Demario Davis isn't out there. And look, usually they only use two linebackers for the majority of all their snaps and games. During base installs, you're going to see a lot of three linebacker formations. I imagine when we see them go into nickel, it would be Werner and Bond. Obviously, when Demario Davis is here, it's going to be Werner and Davis. But injuries happen, and they're paper thin at that position. They let Caden Ellis get away for a big deal in free agency. Either Zach Bond or DeMarco Jackson or player to be named later, is going to have to play valuable snaps for this team sometime. And they need a breakthrough season from one of those two guys. I keep thinking Bond has the potential to do it. I think a big part of his learning curve was drastically switching positions. He was an edge rusher in college, and they moved him to off-ball linebacker. The same transition that Caden Ellis finally made took a few years. That doesn't automatically mean it'll work out for Zach Bond, but obviously he's been here longer. Expectations were higher for him. But it was a reminder that DeMarco Jackson was, I believe, a fifth-round draft pick last year too. So expectations can be high for him too. He basically had a redshirt injury season last year.
I think if we would have saw nickel on Tuesday, I would have all the money in the world on DeMarco and Werner being the guys. DeMarco was playing middle linebacker. Bond doesn't have the range. DeMarco does have the range. So I think in that situation, that's where they want it to go. I think the ideal outcome here is that it is DeMarco Jackson.
Yeah.
Like, and I'm sorry to say this, but I feel like the ship sailed on Zach Bond a little bit. Like I'm over it. Like, I'm not putting any hope into it. Show me. Like, I can't believe in Zach Bond taking that extension at this point. Like, that's gone. Like, he needs to prove it. Like, I think Zach Bond needs to win a job. Like, I think he needs to prove that he needs to be on this team. So I'm not putting him in there at that spot at all. And I think the way we saw it, I was fascinated that DeMarco Jackson was a middle linebacker, because we've talked over him the whole offseason, and we go out there and they're showing us like, whoa, you guys, like, this is the guy. So I think he's the next guy on the depth chart behind DeMario and Pete Werner.
Here's the unfortunate question, though. If it wasn't DeMarco, who would it be? I mean, Nick Anderson was the third string Mike, the guy that just showed up. I'm drawing a blank on who was the second string. Well, Andrew Dowell was bouncing between Mike and Will, and he's a guy who could absolutely be in that competition.
This is why I've been screaming from the hills about the linebackers, and it's like, well, they are in bad shape at that position. They got to go get somebody else, I think. I'm not okay with what they've done. Maybe DeMarco Jackson is the answer. I put him in the same class as Bond. Like, I can't believe in anything because I haven't seen anything from either one of these players.
And that's the thing with DeMarco Jackson. We haven't seen anything because there wasn't an opportunity for him to show some of the things that maybe he's going to do well in that role. So then I want to ask you both then, since that name got brought up, what intangibles do you like about DeMarco Jackson, some of the intangibles he has to maybe excel at that position?
Yeah, I don't know enough about him. I mean, we haven't seen him, but I mean, when he was drafted, I think a lot of people thought exactly what you think of a day 3 linebacker that gets drafted. He was going to have special teams qualities. I never thought he was going to ever see the field as a Mike linebacker. I don't think he's the guy that's going to come in and rush a passer, but I really don't know. I mean, to be honest, the opportunity is there if he wants to take it, though, and be the surprise of camp.
Yeah, go back to your draft study. What do you remember about him when they first selected him?
He moves well. I mean, that's really kind of it. Like, he moves well. I think he has decent range. I think there's some potential there. The thing I like most about him is that the team's telling us that he has the skill set to play middle linebacker possibly, and they're taking a look at him there. They don't see him as like a downhill player. They see him as someone that can go back and forward. So that's at least something. They see some traits. I like the fact that he's been with Mike Hodges for a year. At least I think Mike Hodges is probably the best position coach on this whole entire staff. And you just look at how everybody's developed under him. So maybe he has a shot. But until we see it, I mean, it's a Hail Mary if he has to play in a game right now.
Sticking with defense, is Bradley Roby finding his home at nickel in the nickel?
Yeah, look, I talked to Bradley Roby for almost 10 minutes, and there wasn't a more excited guy in that locker room. And what is he now? He's is this his 10th or 10th season in the NFL? And he's, look, it's very early in OTAs, but he's talking about a lot of vibes he's getting from his second year in the league when he was on the Denver Broncos Super Bowl winning team. The talent in that secondary, just the attitude that this team has in OTAs, and especially his position group. Like I said, aside from Marshawn Lattimore, that whole group is here. And that is a group where that's really important because they were never together last year. I mean, Tyrann Mathieu didn't even sign until, very late in the offseason after the draft. Marcus May was still dealing with an injury. Then they all took turns getting hurt throughout the season or whatever. And he said, that I can't remember exactly what he called it, but he said, we're starting to feel it now, but we were really starting to feel it toward the end of last season. I think it's a group that really wants to build on what they started to feel. And then I talked to Tyrann Mathieu about it too. He said the same thing he said when he was sitting in this chair, which is, we know the numbers say we were good last year, but no, we did not. We don't believe what the numbers say. We know we weren't good enough last year. I think that is a group that not only wants to be talented, I think they want to drive the train. I think they know that they should probably be the leaders of this defense and therefore part of the leadership of this team.
Wow. Bradley Roby's a guy we necessarily, when media's in there, that's not necessarily how they're communicating amongst themselves. But Bradley Roby didn't really seem like he was one of the more vocal guys, right? Am I crazy saying that?
He's kind of a move in silence type of guy. But yeah, no, I mean, look, he's been around some good teams though. And I think there's some cachet to the things he says. And adding to what Mike said, I talked to a friend of the show, Alante Taylor, and like he's coming in with just the absolute most confidence I've ever seen from a person in anywhere. I mean, and he thinks he's going to come in and make a lot of picks. He worked on figuring out how to get his hands on passes to get interceptions. He thought that was a big issue for him last year. So if he takes that step, Roby takes another step at just settling in, the safeties take another step, Marshawn stays healthy.
Yeah.
I don't see why that can't be the strength of the team.
Bradley Roby did display a whole lot of confidence last season. I don't remember which week it was, but it was when we were talking about somebody was out at corner and he had to be plugged in, and there was a whole bunch of questions of, well, can you play multiple roles, in different positions in different defenses? And the confidence that he shared, I was like, whoa, who's this guy?
Yeah.
I mean, it was a new personality, honestly, new personality trait that we saw. And I was like, oh, okay, like he's about his business.
Well, not to go back to, one of the darkest moments of last season, the CJ Gardner-Johnson trade. But a big part of that was they thought they had some guys who could play nickel. And then Roby got hurt early in the season. And then Justin Evans didn't live up to, and then they're signing Chris. Yeah. But they eventually all found where they fit. And now they're starting in those roles. And for Bradley Roby, that will be nickel. And he played a lot of nickel early in his career at Denver. Now he can play outside or nickel, but he is really embracing that is my role on this team. And I think they all have their roles now. Now, who the second corner is going to be between Alante Taylor and Paulson Adebo is going to be one of the most fascinating things we watch all off season. But everybody knows where they fit now. And I think that's a real reason to be optimistic about this group.
You guys have both seen Tyrann Mathieu in studio and also out in the locker room. It seems like there's a different aura about him than what it was last year. He was kind of a little to himself in the locker room. You walk in and he's one of the first like bright smiling faces when you walk into the locker. Like he's ready to go. He's juiced up about practices and being here. And I think maybe that's a different vibe than it was this time last year.
I just get that. I get that. I mean, I get that vibe from him. I get that vibe from this whole group. There was a lot of feeling each other out. They were all new, and it was clunky how they were in and out of the rotation. It just feels, it does like that. That group kind of feels comfortable in their skin and really confident about what they can be.
At ease. I'd say at
Yeah.
ease. And I think when he came in last year, obviously he left camp. Like there's a lot of stuff going on.
Yeah.
The transition back, he told us all the stuff that was kind of going on off the field, just different pressures from different people. I think all that's settled, and you kind of just see it with him. And yeah, he's at ease. He just seems different for sure.
We talked about some of our favorite camp battles that we're looking forward to. Running back was one of them. How about the cornerbacks between Alontae Taylor and Paulson Adebo? We talk about the list of guys that weren't here. Paulson Adebo absolutely showed up for work because I think he's feeling a little bit of pressure, right?
How can he not be? I mean, running back is probably the most interesting, but those guys are both going to play. Cornerbacks, God willing, they don't do the thing where they rotate him every other series this year. I think we all consider Alontae Taylor the front runner because he has the higher ceiling. But, I mean, Paulson Adebo is, if he wins that competition, it's going to be because he earns it. And that's not a bad thing. I mean, he's a talented guy that you want to have on this team. I agree, especially because that's a position we can watch. We're going to be charting 1-on-1s soon. We're going to be charting 7-on-7s, 11-on-11s, preseason games. My eyes are going to be glued to both of those guys. And I think both of them are good. I think it's going to be a good competition because I think both are capable of winning it. Not just, it's a little different than what we were talking about with Zach Bond and DeMarco Jackson. Like, hopefully someone emerges. I think those are two really talented guys competing for a spot.
I think though, like, and I'm not putting words in DA's mouth or anything. I'm just judging the words that DA says. I think if Alontae Taylor doesn't win this position, I think it is a huge upset and something went wrong.
Wow.
I think the head coach wants him out there.
Yeah.
I think he wants his defense to play like Alontae Taylor. I think he wants Alontae to be the heartbeat of that defense. And I think he believes he's all those things. And I think part of the reason that we saw a change in the defensive coordinator is because there wasn't necessarily the same view across the secondary of how the players were viewed. And DA really likes Alontae Taylor, and his upside is crazy. I think that, yeah, I mean, Adebo could win it, but I think it would have to be because Taylor has failed to take a step in his development and maybe even backslid a little bit. I think if you put both those guys out there and they just stay the same, Alontae should be starting. I think the talent is there. I think he's a better athlete. I think he has just better ball skills overall. He doesn't commit the penalties. There's a lot of stuff he's got to clean up. He's got to play more under control. I think he got lucky on a lot of plays last year, and in a larger sample size, maybe he gets exposed a little bit, specifically on curls because he's just way too aggressive going up the field. But he harnesses that in and becomes someone that's thinking about what he's doing and doing the things he's thinking about instead of reacting off of just natural athletic ability. I think that he's going to blow him away.
I will add his confidence, his approach, his aura. You can literally see it on the field in his new jersey, number 1, which from talking to Roby and Tyron, they have both let him hear about. I don't think they're giving him crap about it, but like Tyron goes, I told him, you look taller in that number 1.
Oh.
You look, like they both are like, you got to back it up now.
Yeah.
And he's a guy who is not going to shy away from trying to back up
Yeah, I
that
think
he
he likes
switched to
that.
jersey
Yeah.
number 1.
Yeah.
Yeah, don't just talk it. You kind of went into a little bit of the traits that Alontae Taylor portrays to be able to win that battle. You guys have both watched this competition pretty closely and have watched these two guys closely. So you mentioned Alontae Taylor, the ways he can win it. What are the ways in which Paulson Adebo can lose that battle?
Well, exactly what Nick just said. I think Paulson Adebo is number 2 right now. If they both live up to their expectations, I think Alontae Taylor gets the job. So he is either going to need Alontae Taylor to slip, or he's going to just have to play exceptionally well. And unfortunately, even that might be hard to believe because he was maybe the MVP of training camp last year, and it didn't. You know, he's the one who had the sophomore slump that we wonder if Alontae Taylor could have after a great first season, because he's going to be the one that gets, whoever lines up in that job is going to be the one that gets tested over and over again. Because if Marshawn Latimer's on the field, they're going to throw out the other guy.
Yeah, see, like, there's a possibility that Taylor slumps in his stats and people are going to look at his PFF passer rating against and everything. But if you were actually watching the games and like paying attention to what he's doing, I don't see a scenario where he backslides. I see a scenario where he gives up more numbers because, again, there was just a lot of lucky stuff happening. But the way he played, look, I guarantee he spent this offseason studying route concepts, and he's going to go out there and he's going to know based on where a guy's lined up and the splits and all that, he's going to run this, or this. Whereas last year, he's opening his hips and he's just more athletic than everybody, and he's succeeding because he's more athletic than everybody on the field. When he adds that mental component to that aspect of his game, again, I think he's going to soar. I have trouble seeing a scenario where this is a close battle. Like, I'm sorry, I don't see it happening, and I'll be surprised if it does.
No matter who wins it, is there a space where the Saints are able to keep all 3 of them, Lattimore, Adebo, and Taylor.
Yeah, I mean, Adebo could be a great trade chip if you want to add. I mean, people don't give up like gold for somebody like that if you want to add a mid-round pick. But I'd rather have the depth. I mean, that is a position. I would say the injuries in the secondary are on a short list of things that derailed their season last year. I mean, it went so quick from a lot of guys to who can we sign off the street in week 2 to come fill in and help us. So I don't think they would feel bad at all having somebody who is being underused for a while but ready to jump right in with good experience.
Yeah, the one like truth of football is that you're going to lose a cornerback every year. And yeah, Adebo's a good player. He's really good. They just have 2 really, really, really good players at the top of the depth chart. So yeah, I think they got to keep him.
Man, I can't wait till we get back out there next week. There's so many new things to look at. Of course, the first one, it's just so much information. You guys are trying to chart so many things at one time. Based on what you saw in the first practice, are you pivoting now to maybe something different that you didn't expect?
I go out there and try to watch like literally everything and get a note on every position group and try to notice what they're doing differently. I think I started out a little bit more focused on offense in this one because it's the first time we're looking at Derek Carr, but I try to get this spot like in the middle of the field, and it's just like you get a diagonal perch to both sides and you can just look over and see everything, get the binoculars out. So I'll try to keep an eye on everything.
I do always wish I could rewind the play and watch it again. Like when we're allowed to record early in practice, I will do that. I will be like, I was watching Derek Carr throw to Jaquan Jackson on this play, but now I'm going to look and see what the defense, what Colin Saunders was doing on that play. I noticed Brian Brzee very late in practice. I don't think he played a ton of snaps. It was a kind of a deep position group where they were rotating a lot of guys in, but he got one really impressive pressure on really one of the last 4 or 5 snaps of the game. I didn't make a lot of observations about Isaiah Foskey. I didn't make a lot of observations about Peyton Turner. So those are 3 guys that I will make sure that I am, eagle-eyeing on, because they're 3 of the people I went in most curious about. Unfortunately, when they're not in pads, live hitting, live pass rushing, there's only so much you can see from those
who gave
guys
up
anyway.
first. Yeah.
OTA conversations will continue next week, but for now, we welcome back into the studio Jaquan Jackson, Tulane wide receiver. We've got our guy, Jaquan Jackson, back in the NewOrleans.Football studio. How have you been, man?
I've been good. Just been traveling the last 3 weeks.
And Nick and I have been waiting for you to get back. We want to hear about this Miami trip that Jarvis Landry put together. Before we get into it, tell us how that all came together and who was all there.
Just going back to it, I had my quarterback coach from high school, Brian Lee. He played with Juice's brother, Gerard Landry. So the connection started there, and Gerard was hearing about me. And then fast forward, they had another guy who graduated from Hornville High School, Darius Reynard, who I talked to like once a week, and he told Gerard about me. Gerard, like, I keep hearing this name, and finally he hit me up. We exchanged contacts and everything, and just talked, and finally got to talk to Juice, and just built a relationship with him. And then it was like, man, after the season over to May, we getting that work. Make sure you bring your hard hat. So that's how it went.
I love that. And is this frequent, the guys putting this stuff on and inviting college guys, or is this kind of unique to what Jarvis Landry is doing? Or have you heard like other professionals doing this?
I don't know what other professionals are doing, but I told him, man, it was a blessing just to have a professional just reach out, just connect with a collegiate player, and just have the opportunity to bring him down to show him how an NFL player lives and how they train and how they eat and just everything they do.
All right, so who went and where were you guys at?
It was Juice, me, and his cousin, Gregory Clayton from LSU.
And where did you guys train at in Miami?
We trained, one of the places we trained was the System 8, the Levy, his house, and we trained with the Receiver Factory, Brandon White.
So this small group, like I'm assuming you took a lot of stuff from Jarvis. You were able to be able to like really pick his brain, kind of like in a smaller setting. What are 2-3 things that you took from him that you learned that were kind of eye opening?
One of the things that he was telling me that I would take for me, like no matter what I do, just whatever you do, just when you first doing something, do it at 50%. Once you master that, then go 65%, 75%, 85%, and then you get to that 100, then it's easy. It's like taking candy from a baby, you know what I'm saying? Just like you do it in your sleep.
That's interesting. Yeah, I would have never thought about something like that. So like when you're picking up a new route, like kind of do it at half speed, master it, get the craft down and then just keep building on it? That's kind of how he does
so
it.
first thing we did, we went through like top of the route, 2-step, 3-step, like transitioning. Like we have a choice route, like just trying to see what's the leverage of the DB. So at first I take my read step, then I attack, and then whatever you go based off him. So now that I did my read step to see if you're inside leverage or outside leverage, then I just go off of that. If he squared up, I got a 2-way go. But if he shaded to my right, I can go inside. He's to my left, I can break out. So it's just different things that we worked on. Like, and then he just was telling us like small, simple things like transition, in and out your break, just 1, 2. Then he hit him with a 1, 1, 2, 3. Just saucing it up, you know what I'm saying? Just whatever fits you.
What did that schedule look like? Is it you guys are working out in the morning, evening, afternoon? Is it weightlifting?
So it was different things. Like, so Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, we'll hit the levee, yoga, and then we lift weights. And then probably Tuesday, we'll work out with B. White and just lift. Then the next day, the same thing. Wednesday, then Friday, same thing Thursday.
Sounds like Jarvis Landry was doing a lot of teaching with you, but was he also part of getting ready for the NFL season? We know he's a free agent. Was he also kind of a part of the workouts and things like that?
Yes, he was. Everything we did, he did. So he just was working out while we was there with him. So it was just glad to see how he worked and made us go harder. You know, like it's everybody's dream to work out with an NFL player, and just to be with him for that long down there was amazing.
So he's healthy? He gonna play?
I don't know about that. That's above my pay grade. We were just getting to work, and I was just trying to be a better athlete.
Yeah, I gotta ask, man. I gotta ask. It's my job to ask. One of the things you mentioned, like, was just about like reading the field, the leverage, and all that stuff. Like, that seems like one of the things that's like really a hallmark of Jarvis's game. Just like his feel for all that. Were you guys like watching film on some of that stuff too? Like, was he breaking down how he does some of the stuff or how he sees the field?
No, I was showing him some of my like one-on-one clips and some of my practice and game clips, and he was critiquing me what I can do better, what he like, and like what can I use different times of the game. Like, you can use this speed, like you can go slow, you can go coasting speed, look like you're running fast, and then hit it and then shut it down, like, you know. So just tempos, that's what I wanted to say, like using different tempos at different times.
Is that one of the things, like, as you've gotten deeper into your career, just like detailing the routes? Is that kind of one of the things that you keep making growth at? And is it kind of limitless, like, as how far you can go with that, improving it?
Right, there's always there's always room to improve, like route running. Different ways to run routes, just like I was saying, like tempo, like you can have a curl route, you could get off fast, then tempo, then break down. You could tempo and like hit the gas and then break down. So it's just different ways playing around and just seeing how the DB's playing you and seeing like what they will react to.
What was some of the things that maybe stood out? I know Nick was just asking you about just the different way to go 50% than 100% in a route, but was there anything that really stood out to you that was like, okay, this is coming from an NFL vet, this is something I haven't heard about, or something that you can add to your game?
Really everything that he said, you know. He know more than me, and and one day I'll do the same thing he did, just give it the game that he gave to us, to the younger cats that's coming underneath us. But one of the things that I like was when it was like time to work out, was time to work out. Ain't no bullshit, you know what I'm saying? Like, you gotta get to work. No, explaining it twice. You hit it one time, you gotta catch it the first time. Ain't no explaining 3 to 4 times just to hold your hand. This grown man workout, you know what I'm saying?
We were just talking with Marcus Colston the other day. It sounds familiar, right, Nick?
Yeah, it does, definitely. You guys are getting back to work on Tuesday. Practice resumes?
Yes, sir. We get back we have team meeting Tuesday morning. Then I think everybody get in Wednesday. Not Wednesday. Everybody get in Sunday to report back. You know, Monday is Memorial Day.
Mm-hmm.
So.
And part of your team was overseas.
Yes.
You didn't want to be a part of that trip?
Nah, I did, but sadly I had to graduate.
Yeah.
Last Friday.
More important things.
Yep, more important than I just started my grad program Monday.
Oh wow.
Sports studies, so starting to take that. So can't wait to see how that go.
How excited are you to just see how this team comes together? I mean, it's a lot of the same faces from last year, but it seems like the work this offseason has maybe been a little bit different. Guys going overseas to work out, you're going with Jarvis Landry. How good can this offense be when you guys come together?
Man, it can be great. You know, we just got to dial in and lock in. I just had text Pratt, man. He's not even back home in New Orleans yet. But I said, man, what's good? Hope all is well. I know you had a fun time in Australia, but it's time to get back to work. You know what I'm saying? When you want to throw. I think they fly in tomorrow. It's a 16-hour flight from Australia, so I'm gonna let him take his little rest. But we getting back to work. Like, we got to get it. Ain't no days off. We already let the other days pass us up, you know. But we gonna be straight.
It sounds like you get back in there first practice, like you're setting the tone right away. This isn't like easing back in. Like, is that the mentality?
Oh, that's the mentality. Yes, sir. We got to get it, and nobody ain't waiting on us. It's crazy, it's crazy. Sorry to fast forward. I was up there, so we played 7 and miss. Frank Gore was working out what we was working out as System 8. Then Sean Tiller, brother, the safety from Rice, we played him. And we were just talking, we were just like going back and forth about football. Can't wait to see y'all. And when I first saw him, I was like, man, hey, you know we play y'all week 3 now on 7 and miss. So y'all just, you know, Coach Hall coached us and everything. But, hey, we coming. It's payback. But and then talking to Sean Tiller, brother, from Rice, just getting to know him. Just talking football, and there ain't no beef or nothing, just football, competitive. So it was great working with them too, being around in the same vicinity.
You guys have made some new hires too, hiring one of the former Saints coaches as your special teams coach. You actually had a chance to talk with them. What did those conversations sound like?
Just talked to him. I had talked to him. It was great, just introducing myself and explaining to him what I've been through and what position I played in punt return and kick return, and like how my career been at Tulane University, and just I'm glad we had got him. So he had coached on the Super Bowl team 2019 at LSU, and he had Coach Thomas Morstead, Will Lutz. So it's a lot of great athletes he's been around, and he knows what he's doing.
Yeah, Nick, you were able to be around Coach McMahon back when he was with the Saints. What do you remember about him, and do you see the game translating to college?
He's a good coach, detail-oriented. His special teams units were always pretty good. I think he's going to be a good fit there. The pipeline's there. They got the Saints coaches, so it seems like a pretty natural fit for him overall. For you, you've been all over the place. You just got back from California. Tell us about your trip out there and just some of the stuff you were able to experience and pick up.
Yeah, we some of the football players got the opportunity, and Miss Courtney and our running back coach Derek Sherman had the opportunity to go up there to LA to go to the BSA as a Black Student Athlete Summit with all the all the athletes from all around the world, just get together and just network, just make connections for CEOs of big business. Or we met Brandon Coleman, Soul Cole, Matt Barnes. We left the day Rich Paul came and talked to them, but it was just ADs and coaches all over just talking, and players just talking how the difference of the school they go to, PWIs and HBCUs, and it was amazing. It's my first time being around that many athletes, and just for networking, like work. You know, I'm always around training and stuff, but it's not all about training. It's about life after football that we talked about, and just explaining how the difference of HBCU and PWI, how like some people's explaining that they think HBCU get a better education than PWIs. So that's their opinion. I didn't get into all of that. I just let them talk and just sit back and listen. But it was just, one thing is just amazing just seeing everybody from different schools like Alabama, Ole Miss, SMU, UTSA. There was a lot of schools there, but I can't name all of them. But it's just great just seeing them there. And I'm glad that our coach came and Miss Courtney came, because they could see, because they had, so the athletes had their own pro day and the staff had their own pro day. So it wasn't just for us. It was a benefit for us and the coaches that came too. So they had got a benefit from it.
And I saw the camera in this guy's hand a few times. Is that maybe something that you want to do?
It's in the camera was in my hand all the time. I didn't leave. That's one of the things. So Jarvis got mad at me.
Uh-oh.
So Jarvis, he's all about the camera. He got a lot of cameras, and the time we was in Miami, he was recording everything we did. And I told him I got a camera too. So the first 2 days there, I left it at home. And he was like, "Don't never leave your camera at home. Like always, like you want to get the footage of everything. Like take pictures and all of that." So it was great with that. And since that day, I never left my camera at home. I was gonna bring it in here, but I left it in the car. But and
Don't do that around here.
I know we got to bring
Don't
that
do
same
that around
mentality,
here.
right?
He sat there and then showed me how to edit. And every time we was there, I had my camera and then I had my laptop. We was editing or Adobe Lightroom and just showing me the ins and outs and edit the videos. So he took videos while we was there and working out. So hopefully I'll be dropping videos soon. I don't know when, but it's some great videos with us working out and everything. But that's one of the things that made me. After that, it just I love it now. That's why I say I love being in the camera now. Like just me going to LA and just shooting like what we did, and that should be dropping soon. It should be dropping on Tulane Football page, and I got something coming out for me that I'll post on my page. But it was just amazing just seeing how much you can do with a camera, like pictures. And the crazy thing about when I was in LA, it was just one night we was by the pool and I was just trying out the flash on my camera. And then one picture came out, a track girl from Ole Miss was like, take my picture. I said, okay. And then I took it. So I got the Canon app on my phone. I took the picture and then upload to my phone right then and there. She's like, no way. I was going to tell her, nah, this is my app. It's Q4 app. You know what I'm saying? I wanted to tell her that to make it, you know what I'm saying? But I didn't want to do that. So she did that. And so everybody started to see I was taking pictures. And they were like, take my picture, and it was that night. I'm talking about the picture came out beautiful and everything. I had to do editing and nothing just came out beautiful. And I was just uploading. So what I had to do is one of the players Tyreek James with me. So I had to get him my phone to upload the picture while I take the pictures to make it go faster because there was like a line. And then they took, can I cash app? I'm like, nah, it's just the kindness of my heart, So just a blessing just to do that and just be around that. So.
And I think people forget too, he's talking about Jarvis Landry is holding the camera. He's holding the camera. This is becoming, I feel like, a new avenue for a lot of players is getting into their creative side outside of football. Jarvis Landry, I believe I saw a post a few weeks back or even a month back where he said he kind of wants to get involved in this and learn how to use the camera and learn how to edit. Does it seem like he's already kind of like figured out this new avenue and was able to put out like good content? Is that kind of hard to believe that an NFL wide receiver is already like, hey, I want to get behind the camera and not just like hire somebody to do it for me, right?
Yeah, he knows what he's doing. Like, it's crazy to work. Just seeing him sitting down and just seeing him edit and stuff and what he thinks about different things. He asks us what we want to do, like what edits we wanted to put in there, and just amazing to see that. Like at first action, I don't know too many athletes that record their own stuff and edit it and take pictures and all that. He took a lot of pictures of us, and I haven't posted it yet. I don't know when. I really don't like posting like my workouts and all of that, but eventually it'll be posted.
All right.
I like to be behind the scenes.
We'll be on the lookout for that. We are going to keep up with Jaquan Jackson, and good luck Tuesday back on the practice field. Hey, maybe we'll put a camera in your hand and you'll bring us some Tulane footage.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for being here.